Welcome back to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm Keith Downey, your host, and I'm excited and very thrilled here to have our next guest join us this morning. Her name's Paula Gallagher. She's a Catholic infertility coach and founder of Catholic Infertility Resources, who, with her husband, helps struggling couples navigate infertility. It's tough. Good morning and welcome to the show, Paula.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. It is quite the hot topic nowadays, and it's back in the news headlines. IVF. It seems to get center stage in the public square, and it's, at first glance, it's definitely not a good thing, but I feel like there's a silver lining here. People like yourself, right? So being able to help educate and help all of us Catholics understand the ill effects of IVF and also share alternatives that don't destroy human embryos. But before we jump into it, Paula, could you briefly tell us a bit about your background and how you became about supporting Catholic couples dealing with this infertility?
Yeah, so my husband and I met at college. We both attended Ave Maria University, and we got married shortly after graduation, and we both came from big families. And so, we also wanted to have a bunch of kids and have kids right away. So we started trying to get pregnant, pretty much from the get-go, and nothing was happening. So I started looking for doctors, and where we were at that point in time in Florida, I just Googled Catholic OB-GYN and went to the first person who popped up. And, I'm 23, I'm young, I'm healthy, got basic fertility awareness from marriage prep. But that doctor, who I'm pretty sure was only Catholic in name, was like, oh, that's the rhythm method. That's so outdated. That's, those charts are useless. And I was like, I don't think so. So he did maybe 3 tests and then pretty much tried to push me towards IVF. And I was like, first of all, no, because I'm Catholic. But second of all, I'm young, I'm 23, I shouldn't need IVF, and you don't even know what the problem is. So that just doesn't even make sense to me. Why would you do this big expensive procedure that may or may not work when you don't even know what the root cause is? Right. So I'm pretty sure my mom was the one who found out about Pope Paul VI Institute and was like, hey, you really need to look into them. So I started working with them long distance, and even just doing tests with them and looking at my charts long distance, they gave me 5 or 6 things that they're like, well, you should probably investigate all of these. We think from your charts and your blood work, these might be issues. And we ended up moving to Texas, where I was able to work with a few local doctors over the next decade. And lo and behold, everything that Pope Paul VI Institute suggested ended up being an actual diagnosis. They're like, you might have endometriosis. Yes, I did. You might have PCOS. Yes, I did. You might have thyroid issues. Yes, I did. You have luteal phase defect. Yes, I did. So, it was pretty crazy just from doing, a month's worth of blood work and charting and looking at the patterns for them to be able to pinpoint and say, hey, we think there's things here that need to be explored more deeply and, things that can be treated and hopefully resolved. So that kind of took up about 12 years of life. So, we got many answers, but we never got pregnant. But we also never got to a point where a doctor looked at us and was like, you're never going to get pregnant. It's kind of just been this road of, well, we found an issue. We've been able to manage it appropriately to the point where, we're not sure why you're not getting pregnant. Which is very frustrating and very discouraging. But the benefit of that is I have learned so much about my body and women's health issues in general. So at the end of 2022, my then OB-GYN kind of looked at me and was like, I'm out of ideas. There's nothing else to try, which kind of forced me to take a break from testing, step back, spend some time grieving and reflecting. And in that space, I really felt a call from the Holy Spirit to, it's you can't be the only person like this. You can't be the only woman who's going through this. Maybe you need to do something about it. So, after a lot of prayerful consideration, I reached out to my parish priest and I was like, hey, I want to start a women's infertility ministry. at the parish. And he said yes. So in my preparation for that, I was like, I need to get all of my information in one place, like all of the resources I've gathered over the years. So I created the Catholic Infertility Resources website as just kind of for me as a place to direct people, to keep everything organized. And then from there, a few months later, I was like, you know what, I can probably expand. So I created an Instagram account, which is catholic.infertility.coaching, where not every day, but almost every day, I'll post something that's, related to informational about infertility or support for coping, church teaching. Sometimes it's a meme, you gotta laugh.
That's right. Gotta have a sense of humor.
Gotta have a sense of humor. And then at the beginning of this year, I launched my Catholic infertility coaching business. So that was just kind of a natural extension of the mentoring and the support that I offer to the women in my in-person group, to just be able to open that up virtually to, any other woman in America, really, who feels alone and doesn't really know what to do next, and just kind of needs, somebody else who's been there to say, hey, it's going to be okay. We can get through this together.
That's such a vital thing. I don't think many people understand, especially at a parish level, having some sort of ministry like this would help so many Catholics just understand the basics, really, of fertility or infertility, and have someone be there for them in case they are struggling with that. So thank you for stepping up to that and kind of sharing that there's potential for others to do kind of the same thing at a parish level. Yes. But you're listening to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm Keith Downey, and we're talking to founder of Catholic Infertility Resources and is a Catholic infertility coach, Paula Gallagher, all about kind of the IVF and alternatives. Now, obviously, our Catholic faith is pretty clear on why it's morally unacceptable to use IVF. It separates the Marriage Act from procreation. But it's also a very touchy topic to bring up with our Catholic fellow brothers and sisters that might be struggling related to this. So is there a way to kind of interject, like, hey, there's, NaPro Technology, which actually, would you mind going into that little? I know we have a few moments left, but I think that's very important to talk about an alternative to IVF. So tell us a little bit about NaPro Technology.
Sure. So NaPro Technology was founded by Dr. Thomas Hilders in 1985, which it kind of came into being at the same time that IVF was picking up. Like the first live human birth from IVF was 1978, and it kind of became more successful and more popular throughout the 80s. So, Dr. Hilders and NaPro Technology was kind of developing along the same time that IVF was gaining popularity. And NaPro Technology is a methodology that views infertility as a symptom of a root cause. And the goal is to find and treat that root cause to restore health and fertility. So you are, approaching the whole human body and addressing the whole human body. And the beauty of NaPro Technology is that you find answers, you find healing. And, if you can find the root cause and treat the root cause, then you're not just getting, one potential pregnancy. You could potentially have your fertility problems resolved for, the rest of your life. And if your, hope is to have more than one child, then you've already laid the groundwork for that.
It sounds so basic and straightforward. It's like, why isn't this done like normally? Why do we go straight to IVF? Like, why do you think IVF is so popular?
Because the average medical doctor does not receive very much training about women's health. I remember hearing a podcast with a Catholic OB-GYN, and she said in her just general medical school training, so not specializing, but just general medical school, they had one 30-minute class on the woman's cycle, and the slides were taken from Wikipedia. So, your average just medical doctor, just MD, does not have very much of an idea, and if you're getting just like a secular OB-GYN, their training may or may not be much more thorough than that, because now, the known, quote, known solution is just IVF. So they just shunt people in that direction once they've done maybe like, oh, hey, have you tried Clomid? Or, you know, let's just make sure your tubes aren't blocked, you know. So there are some basic tests that like they might do, but then once it's more complicated than that, they just, you know, push you off to the IVF doctor. And some IVF doctors will do more testing than others, right? Because they are becoming more aware that if you have something like endometriosis, which is highly toxic, that's going to have a negative effect on the IVF procedure. It's going to affect their implantation rates. You know, it's going to make their statistics go down. So, but again, it depends on the doctor, right? Every doctor is different. Every doctor has a different level of specialization and training and even motivation to help you find the answer. That's why you got to find somebody who's a good fit for you, or switch to somebody once you've kind of reached the limit of their knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely get a second opinion if someone's throwing IVF at you in like right in the beginning. That's not good. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Paula. I know we have maybe 15 seconds or 20 seconds left. Any lasting advice you'd like to leave our listeners before they start their day?
You know, if you are somebody who's struggling to get pregnant, you're not alone. You know, 1 in 6 individuals worldwide now struggle with infertility. There are multiple, specifically Catholic infertility ministries out there besides my own. Springs in the Desert is another one. The Fruitful Hollow is another one. You know, they offer blogs, podcasts, mentorship. So find something that resonates with you, because you don't have to do this alone.
Love it. Thank you so much, Paula Gallagher, for joining us this morning. You can find more information, CatholicInfertilityCoaching.com, or on Instagram, Catholic.infertility.coaching. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more. Let's keep spreading that truth and joy together. God bless, and make it a joyful day.